Hello everyone, welcome to my 4-month update video. This was another solid month of progress despite wild variance in my study habits. I feel like I've been making relatively rapid progress due to a slight change in my flashcards as well as a temporary increase in the number of cards I learn each day in preparation for visiting Vietnam. In this video, I'll talk about my study schedule, my current ability, pronunciation, YouTube, flashcards, minimal pairs, listening to dialogues, and tracking my time. My studying was all over the place this month, as you can see in the graphs over here. I gotta get my directions right. There were 8 days where I studied over 3.5 hours, some days 4 hours, and 6 days where I barely did anything at all. In the end, I studied for a little over 80 hours this month. I'm counting that as a win, even though things were a bit rocky. But I do have to keep in mind that this is a long-term project, and the more I strive for consistency, the smoother things should go. My overall strategy for learning has stayed basically the same since the beginning. Learned some flashcards with sentences on them, watched a lot of videos. The only change this month was to the ratio. Before I was spending like 1/6 of my time on flashcards, and now I'm spending over 1/3 of my time on them. Okay, my current ability. Similar to my study time, my assessment of my current ability has swung from extreme to extreme. Overall, I am very happy with my progress. I know more words than ever, and I'm understanding more dialogue than ever. Of course, as I mentioned in my last video, more than ever doesn't mean everything. I'm understanding maybe 10% of what I hear, but I'm still quite proud of that 10%. Let's see. However, day to day, my understanding varies greatly, and sometimes that can be demotivating. Here are some entries from my study diary from different days. Came across a video where for the first 10 minutes I understood so much. And this one from another day. Even though I said I could understand some conversations in my 3-month video, there are still entire videos where I don't understand anything, like 2 words. It's really frustrating and saddening. I hope I will be able to understand the language someday, but right now it feels like I've barely made it 10 feet from the start line. And one more. Really excited by the progress I've made in 4 months. Makes me excited about the results of another 4 months of study. As you can see, I had good days and bad days, but I think that's par for the course. Looking back through my diary, the positive days far outnumbered the negative. I think I just have to stay the course and push through when necessary. Regarding my vocabulary, being able to give an estimate is going to get harder and harder the longer I study. I'm going to venture a guess that I learned another 500 to 700 words this month. Based on that, I would guess my overall passive vocabulary is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 words. With reading, recently I noticed something about reading. If I try to read something, I generally have no idea what it means or what it's saying. However, if that sentence is read out loud, I realize I actually knew many of the words. I think my current lack of reading ability is just that, a literacy problem. Okay, pronunciation. Some thoughts before I start. I have a really hard time remembering what tone a word is from memory. I think my brain is just still not fully adapted to the process of processing and encoding the tones in my memory. On a related note, I also have a hard time determining what tone words are within a sentence. Individually, I can hear them pretty easily, but in a sentence, all bets are off. Okay, for this month, I'm just going to say some sentences. I picked 6 that I liked, and here we go. The dog keeps chasing after Uncle Tung. Con chó cứ đuổi theo chú Tung. You don't know standard Vietnamese? Không biết tiếng Kinh à? Next month is non-lunar New Year. Tháng sau là Tết Dương lịch. Every day I drink coffee in the morning. Hàng ngày tôi uống cà phê buổi sáng. How many pieces of meat do you want? Em muốn mấy miếng thịt. And the last one. We are going to explore 3 Boon restaurants. Chúng ta sẽ đi khám phá 3 quán bún. Quán. Like I said last month, the A cup, the short A, and the long A. I very often get those wrong, but oh well. Okay, YouTube. No major updates for YouTube. I just wanted to point out that watching videos for 2 hours a day or 2+ hours a day is still something that I have to push myself to do. Some days it feels less like work than others, but it still feels like study time. I attribute this to either my lack of ability or the overall lack of content in Vietnamese, at least of the northern variety. The grass is probably greener, but sometimes I wonder if there would have been more interesting stuff to watch had I learned southern Vietnamese. But whatever. Let's see. Oh, one more thing is that I found a few videos with English subtitles, and I decided to try studying them line by line. So I read the English subtitle, and then I tried to listen for the corresponding Vietnamese. It sort of worked here and there, but overall I didn't find it to be particularly efficient or effective, and I don't really have any plans of continuing with it. I just wanted to try it. Flashcards. Okay, real quick, here are the statistics for this month. Over here, 581 new cards. I studied about 150 to 250 cards a day for between 30 to 70 minutes a day. Okay, I have made a shift in what I am focusing on in my flashcards. Fundamentally, up to this point, my flashcards have been based on grammar. I would make 2 to 3 sentences for every grammar point I could find. I would learn vocab incidentally through this process. However, one of the principles of good flashcards is to only have one new thing per card. Each grammar sentence contains several things that were new to me, a new grammar structure, plus several new words, forcing me to break the sentence down into several cards. A vocab card, maybe a phrase. So yeah, using this method, I made 1,430 cards, only 31% of which were full sentences. This grammar knowledge, which is still incomplete, hasn't really turned out to be as useful at this point in my journey as I had expected. I'm really feeling like vocab is holding me back. In fact, I'm wondering if I should have been focusing on vocab from the beginning. Of course, a little foundational grammar is necessary, but I'm beginning to suspect that vocab is far more useful without grammar than grammar is without vocab. So anyway, about halfway through this month, I decided to shift from a grammar-based model to a vocab-based one. Each card contains a sentence, and that sentence contains, to the best of our ability, one new vocab word. So far, the results have been awesome. Of course, I've been learning lots of new words, but I've also been exposed to just as many full sentences. I'm seeing old words in new context, seeing grammar in action, and hearing words as they're spoken in a sentence as opposed to in isolation. As I've said before, I really believe in immersion for language learning, and I think sentence flashcards are a really powerful surrogate. Around this time, when I was trying these new cards, making this shift, I was thinking about how to prepare for our trip to Vietnam. And since these new cards have been going so well, I decided to set a short-term goal. 1,000 new cards in 40 days. That works out to 25 cards a day. Sprinting in the middle of a marathon is not always the smartest thing to do, and I'm definitely worried about burnout. My daily flashcard study times quickly went from 30 minutes to 60 to 70 minutes a day, and that number will only grow. But I think the extra work and risk is worth it in this case, as going to Vietnam is a huge opportunity. After returning from Vietnam, I think I'll aim for 15 to 20 new cards a day, something like that. One thing that I changed to make the extra time spent on flashcards easier to manage was to do all my new cards first before doing my reviews. I found for me, I have a lot more mental energy at the beginning of a session than at the end, and it's worked out much better for me making this change. And the last thing I want to note about this change in flashcards is that it is leaving less time for watching videos. Like I said earlier, I'm spending over a third of my time doing Anki. So despite that, I'm hearing lots of these new words when I do watch the videos. And so I think if I can find the time, increasing my exposure in proportion with the increase in flashcards would yield great results. Minimal pairs. I actually did really well with minimal pairs for the first part of this month. I managed a streak of 100 correct answers for every pair I currently have, which I had never done before. A trick I discovered, I don't know, is to listen and imagine where in the mouth the sound was being produced. So like the regular U, the oo, I imagine like seeing lips rounded, or the U hook, I like see it in my head with the lips spread. H, like hua, hua, I hear it in the front of the mouth as opposed to like KH where I hear in the back. I can't think of a word at the moment. Whatever. I hear it in the back of the mouth. It really helped to visualize this. So even though I was doing well with the minimal pairs, as I started focusing more and more on flashcards in the latter half of this month, I practiced the pairs less. I do think there's more to be gained, so I will probably revisit them soon. I attempted using some recorded dialogues from a textbook for some extra practice. I actually used elementary Vietnamese. There's some dialogue recordings in here, and some recordings for the vocab words. It's all audio. So basically, I don't actually have to open the textbook to learn what they're saying. They have like an audio track for the vocab. It's like word in Vietnamese, word in English, word in Vietnamese, word in English. It's a little bit grindy because there's a lot of new vocab in each dialogue. It's definitely not one new word per sentence or whatever. But despite that, I've learned about 7 chapters worth of new recordings. I think the flashcards are more effective and enjoyable, but on days where I don't have any new cards, then I'll probably bring out these recordings again. Tracking my time. I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but I think tracking how much time I spend studying has been a really great thing. It helps keep me honest about how much time I study each day and how much time I've put in overall. But my current method is a bit obtrusive and harder to start on a whim. If you didn't know, I stream most of my study sessions on a separate YouTube channel, just for record keeping. Putting my camera up and making sure I'm presentable, wearing clothes, gets in the way of filling little gaps in my day with Vietnamese, and those gaps could add up to a lot more time. But on the other hand, once I start studying, I'm less likely to go off and do something else before the time is up. Regardless, in some form or another, tracking my time is something I will strongly consider in other projects that I do. In summary, it's been 4 months. I have spent 123 days straight, 1/3 of a year, learning Vietnamese for an average of 2.5 hours a day. I'm not fluent, nor am I close to fluent. The road has felt long, and the road ahead of me is longer still, which can be a discouraging thought. But I can also see my progress and how far I've come. I like to think of studying as purchasing fluency using my hours as currency. I don't know the exact price of fluency, but if I keep making payments, eventually I will have bought it. Until then, I'm excited to keep sharing my journey in these videos. That's it for this month. Thanks for listening again. I'll be back in another month to give a pre-Vietnam update. Until then, bye-bye.